Yes, absolutely on that.
All right. Good afternoon. I'd like to call the meeting to order. I think we have a quorum. I know there are a couple of folks online. Natalie Johnson representing Manitou, and I believe Holly Williams is also online, and our attorney Jennifer Ivey is online also. So we do have a quorum with representatives from, I think, most of the jurisdictions here. First thing is to approve the agenda. I don't think we have any changes to the agenda. And I think we need a motion and a second to approve that. So I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor Dixon, I'll move we approve the agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Randy Helms, second.
Okay. All those in favor, aye.
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 Any opposed? Very good. We have an approved agenda. Public comment period for items not on the agenda. I don't know if we have anyone here in the audience that would like to address the board. Not seeing any. How about online? Do we have anyone online that would like to address the board? And I don't believe we do. So we'll move on to the approval of minutes. You might recall we have two sets of minutes to approve. The minutes from December 11th, 2024. We postponed the approval of those last month to allow an update regarding comments on South Academy. And I believe those changes have now been made to the minutes. So unless there are any other comments, corrections, or changes to those, I'll entertain a motion to approve the December 11th, 2024 minutes.
Mayor Dixon, also move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Randy Helms, second.
Very good.
Go ahead, Corey.
Okay, we have a motion to approve and a second. All those in favor, aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, approval of the minutes from the January 8th, 2025 meeting. I believe.
And again, Mayor Dixon, also move that we approve them.
Very good. Is there a second?
Go ahead, Corey.
Second.
Thank you, Corey. Before we vote on that, any comments, corrections, or changes to those meeting minutes? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Brings us then to number 5, Citizen Advisory Committee Monthly Report. Jim.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Welcome, Corey. Jim Godfrey, Chair of the CAC. Just a heads up, our meeting only lasted 43 minutes, so the challenge is on. We reviewed 8 contracts by the city of Colorado Springs. 4 of those were property, some other material contracts and design. We recommend approval of the city's request as presented to us. I would just, as an information item to us, Colorado Springs Transit, Lan and her team gave a great briefing with some deeper dive in some of the analytics on timing and bus routing and on-time performance. A very good informative discussion, and the CAC had a real good conversation around that. So I hope you find that interesting as well. The rest of it was information only. I would point out that the maintenance effort reports were all by all 6 member governments have been submitted, and we recommend a positive recommendation of those 6 maintenance of effort. Other than that, if you got any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Any questions for Jim? All right. Well, seeing none, thanks, Jim. And yeah, I think the gauntlet has been thrown down that we need to make this a faster meeting than 42 minutes. So
A motion to accept, please.
very good. Could I please have a motion to accept? the
Mayor
CAC
Dixon, I'll
report?
move to accept the CAC report.
And is there a second?
Second, Randy Helms.
Very good. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, thank you. Financial reports.
All right, Lisa Corey, Finance Manager for the PPRTA. The month I'm reporting is for the sales and use tax collected for December. We collected $14,218,862. That was above our budget by $721,938 or 5.3%. With having December, we have everything for the whole year. And for the year as a whole, we came in above budget by $6,477,389 or 4.3%. When we look at December of 24 compared to December of 23, we collected 335,967 more in December than we did in 23. And then looking at the year as a whole, 24 compared to 23, in 24, we collected 1.4% more, or approximately 2.2 million more. Any questions?
Okay. That was easy enough.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Brings us, excuse me, then to item 7, 2025 capital maintenance and public transportation contract, City of Colorado Springs.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Gail Sturman with the City of Colorado Springs. As Mr. Gardner mentioned, the city has 8 contracts for the board's consideration. The first one is for Mark Shuffle Road improvements for a property acquisition. This is a PPRTA 3 A-list project. There is a property map included in your packet for reference. This is to acquire easements and real property necessary for the road improvements, and also at the same time we're doing acquisition for the Southern Delivery freshwater pipeline easements at the same time. So we're only having to go talk to the property owners one time. The total appraised and agreed upon price is $250,900, and of that, $107,590 would go towards PPRTA. Staying with the same project on your next map, this is to reimburse cost to Mountain View Electric for relocation of electric line, also associated with the Mark Shuffle Road project along that entire length from Tamlin up to Dublin. The amount for that relocation is $445,334. The city's third contract is for the UPRR bridge over Fontanero. This is a PPRTA 2 A-list project. There is a map located in your packet. We came to you in July of 2024 to get authorization for up to $110,000 for them to go through and do a series of investigation work where they're going to have to go do potholing to determine the slack that's available in the line, to really help us prepare for and design work for relocation of that fiber optic line in the railroad right away for that project. They have come back as the scope has kind of evolved and said it's going to be an excess, well, they're estimating an excess of $150,000, but we have to pay the actual costs. So we're asking for authorization on a not to exceed value of up to $200,000, just to make sure we have the funds available to pay that bill when it comes in place. Any unspent funds would stay in that project budget and be used for other things for that project. The city's fourth contract is to put a contract in place. To put a contract in place where we'd be piggybacking off a CDOT contract where they've gone in through a competitive RFP process to be able to buy a wide range of signal equipment. That contract is in place, or would be in place with the AM signals. We want to put this in place for up to $500,000, and we would be using that to purchase signal equipment for maintenance projects or capital projects that the city would be doing underneath the PPRTA. When we piggyback on these contracts, we actually get a lot more buying power. We estimate on this contract, we'd save about 22% on the signal equipment. City's fifth contract is to issue a task order underneath one of our existing on-call concrete contracts with ICS Colorado. And this one would be in the amount of $742,000 for the work on Wald Avenue. The city's sixth contract is to establish a second on-call contract for a crack seal service. We had about 4 or 5 different respondents. We had 5 respondents. We made an award to one already. This will be our second award. Just to have a base contract in place with CKC Operations LLC. At this time, we're not asking to put any money on this or no task orders, but it would give us the base contract in place and establishes our pricing. So if we needed to put a task order in place in the future. City's 7th contract, going back to Mark Shuffle Road. Again, this is an RTA 3 A-list project. This is for another property acquisition. And there is a map included to show its property. It's the property that butts the previous one that we discussed in contract number 1. Right now, we have a valuation for the CSU portion of $167,827. And we're asking for up to a not to exceed value on the PPRTA portion of $132,173. It's critical for us to get this property. We're finalizing some details with the sign and some language in that easement. But we know that the PPRTA portion would not be more than that piece. And because of the sensitive nature and getting this property to keep the Mark Shuffle Road project, we're asking for your consideration to allow us up to that total not to exceed value of $300,000 for that property acquisition. And the city's 8th contract is for the US 24 and Peterson intersection improvements. This also is, this is the project where we have received federal money to be able to do the construction for the improvements at the interchange that leads to Peterson Space Force Base North Gate. This is the last critical piece of property that needs to go through acquisition. We have very tight timelines for commitments for this grant. So we've gone through property appraisals. We are actually down to the point where we are finalizing the compensation for a sign that's on the property, and we're waiting for some valuation on that. So we're asking for the PPRT's board approval of a not to exceed value of up to $170,000 to be able to resolve that property acquisition necessary for that property with PHA store. So those are the city's 8 contracts. I'm happy to answer any questions and would appreciate your positive consideration.
Thanks, Gail. Any questions on any of those contracts? I just had one, and sorry to not know this, but how many on-call contracts do you have for crack sealing specifically? Do you have a number of vendors that you?
Crack seal, just 2. This is that we put an RFP together. We got 5 respondents. We're only going to select 2 based on what we received.
So this would be the second one that you would add?
This is the second one.
Got it. Thank you. Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain the motion to accept.
Randy Helms, motion to accept.
Thank you.
Mayor Dixon, second.
Very good. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Member government, other reports, City of Colorado Springs Transit Services monthly update. Lan.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the board, Land Rail Transit Services Division Manager. In your packet is our regular monthly transit report. Under the ridership section, we concluded 2024 with about 90% of the ridership compared to pre-COVID. Also on the ADA paratransit side, we saw an increase of 4.1% compared to 2023. We normally look at the national average, monitoring the trend and compare our services to the national average, and that information is not available as of today yet. Moving to the transit highlight section, we have been part of the Pikes Peak Regional Office of Emergency Management effort, providing transportation services for extreme cold weather. And we were able to help in this effort to transport a few individuals to 3 different locations during the January 20th event. And we continue to work with PPOEM in this effort. Jim mentioned earlier that we included an on-time performance analysis. This was at the CAC's request last month. So we included our system on-time performance, trying to capture how we are doing, how we have been doing in terms of that reliability of transit service. In our contract and also an industry standard, we normally consider the bus not leaving early and also not be late more than 5 minutes as on time. The reason for that is we don't want the bus to leave early because that is worse than being a couple minutes late. And also the 5 minutes late allows the drivers to catch up in between time points because of traffic. So in 2022, although our goal is 90% of on-time performance, we were below that. There are a few reasons for that contributing to this not reliable below our goal performance. One of them is we have been experiencing both vehicle and driver shortage in 2024. And our driver shortage situation became more severe starting in April 2024. So that contributed to the not so reliable service. The other part of the information included in the packet is we do have some system limitation. When we use the smaller vehicles for fixed route service, we do not have all the GPS, the real-time information tracking system inside those vehicles. So the information that we have is less optimal. We also are limited to the cell phone service because that's the technology we use tracking this information. So regardless of that, this reliable service is really a number one goal for our entire division. We continue to work. We did include some report last month in terms of what we have been doing in terms of addressing both vehicle and driver shortage situation, and we will continue that effort in 2025. We included some examples here. Road construction, detours, situations on the bus, events do affect the reliable service, the on-time performance of the vehicles because we're a part of the transportation system. And in this report, you will see a breakdown of our individual route on-time performance information as well as the system average. So that concludes my report for this item. I also would like to mention that by the time we submitted the report, we did not have the information. We will be doing a joint event with CDOT, Bastan, and Outrider Service tomorrow at noon, between noon and 1:30 at our downtown bus terminal. So there will be buses on display, and you will have passengers as well as staff members from both MMT and CDOT being there answering questions. This is part of the effort that we have been doing starting last year to connect with our passengers to understand the service, the challenges our passengers have, and be available to the passengers. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Mayor Dixon?
Yeah, I see we have a legislative update later on the agenda, but I was curious if you're monitoring House Bill 25-1007 for the paratransit services.
Yes, I have been monitoring that. Thank you.
Are you seeing potential issues or?
Yes, there are potential issues. Although the city has not taken a formal position on that, I have shared my concerns with both PPACG staff and city staff. There will be some negative impacts on transit operations. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is the City of Colorado Springs monthly change order and property acquisition report.
Yes, this Gale started with City of Colorado Springs. So the change order report and real estate log is available in your packet. It's information only, and I'm happy to answer questions should you have any.
Any questions on that? Okay. City of Colorado Springs Powers North reimbursement update.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Gail Sturdivant once again. From this statement, this summarizes that for the Powers Boulevard corridor, we have incurred another $2.4 million in charges. All of that is attributed to PPRTA in this case. So right now, the total for future reimbursement from PPRTA for that work is just under $16 million. And we have another 1.175 that's to be reimbursed by Colorado Springs Utilities. I will point out in the body of the memo, we are anticipating another additional charge too from Colorado Springs Utilities from some electric relocation in the amount of up to $1.9 million. Any questions related to the reimbursement statement?
And as Gail knows, not to the reimbursement, but we're going to get it open, fully open sometime soon.
Sometime soon. So if you've been out there, it's been open to traffic for a couple months, but the final work to get it open all the way seems to be taking some time. And Randy and I both noticed that there were about 20 people out there working last Saturday. It was
Yeah.
a beautiful day, and I thought they were going to make great progress. And then all I saw was some fencing installed. So I'm trying to get an update on where they are in that status, but we're hoping to get that completely done and turned over as soon as possible.
Great. Thanks, Gail.
Thank you.
Unless there are any questions on that, we'll move on to the maintenance of efforts report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The establishing IGA provides for the maintenance of effort provision, which is primarily to ensure that member governments do not use PPRTA funds to substitute for their non-PPRTA funds. The 6 member governments provided their reports to the CAC. They're also in your agenda packet today. The CAC found that all six met the maintenance of effort provision relative to the base year of fiscal year 2017. Recommend a motion to approve.
Thanks, Rick. Any questions on that? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Mayor Dixon also move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Mayor Osborne, second.
Okay, great. Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Unless there's any discussion, all those in favor, aye.
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 Any opposed? Great. Thank you very much. Item 9, administrative action reports, legislative report.
Hi, this is Dan Jablan live from the Colorado Capitol. Kind of big update. One of the bills that Jennifer and Rick and I have been talking about quite a bit is Senate Bill 30 to make sure that we get excluded from the bill. I've worked multiple times closely with Senator Faith Winter and Nick Henriksen out of Pueblo, and Faith Winters is here out of Broomfield. They understand our position that we are a financing arm and not completing the projects, and have certainly agreed in principle that we do not belong in this bill and have liability for the projects. Like I said, we've talked to them in depth. I've sent them an email stating that. The bill has been sort of so slow played in the sense that it was introduced on 1/8, but it's still yet to make it to committee yet. And Wednesday is the Transportation Committee in the Senate, and still no scheduled date in committee. So we look really good on that. We have great compliance from both of the bill sponsors and an understanding of our position on that. So I feel good about where we are at on that. The only other one we were talking about kind of in depth is the meeting accessibility bill. Nothing specific to that has really dropped yet. The only other thing that we might be aware of and looking at, just from a meeting and an organization point of view, is Senate Bill 77, which is the Cora request bill. And I don't know that we will have any impact on us or not, but that's something we may want. I've added it to our tracker just so we can be aware of it. But those are the things that we've sort of been looking at. But the good news is we won't have liability in Senate Bill 30. And things are a little wild down here in the fact any time you're working in an environment where the budget is about $1 billion short, there's a lot of angst around here of people looking very closely and kicking over every single rock to try to keep their programs alive. So in some ways, things have been moving very quickly. In fact, they've been moving much more quickly this year than any other year as far as the number of bills. We're well over 200 already, which is usually a March number, but a lot of them are sitting, and anything with a fiscal note is not going to get across the finish line. Happy
Thanks.
to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Are there any questions on the legislative briefing? Okay, seeing none. This is an approval item, is that right?
That's as a contingency in case you wanted to take a position on a bill. So you do not have to take any action.
Okay, I don't think we have articulated any position, so we'll move on there. Thanks, Dan, appreciate that. Revision to board bylaws, second and final reading.
This is Jennifer Ivy. Thank you all for allowing me to join remotely today. I wasn't sure what the weather conditions were going to be on the way down from Denver. These are the bylaws I discussed with you at last month's meeting. They are unchanged from last month, just some technical corrections, which started with the impetus to change the number of directors to make that accurate. Happy to take any questions on this item, but this is unchanged from last month. This is your second and final reading. If the board is so amenable, a approval of the bylaws as presented would be the motion I'd be looking for.
Okay, are there any questions for Jennifer? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the bylaws revisions that have been previously discussed.
Mayor Dixon, I'll move we approve the bylaw changes.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Randy Helms, second.
Thanks, Randy. Unless there's any discussion, all those in favor, aye.
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 Any opposed? Great, thank you. Item 10, executive session. Jennifer, do you want to talk a little bit about this relative to item 11?
Yes, I'm gonna, with the board's permission, start with item 11, because I don't have a request, despite it being listed on the agenda as a contingency item. I don't have a need for an executive session unless the board members have questions for me that seem more appropriate for executive session. So item 11 before you today, what was included in your packet is a resolution that was passed by the Board of County Commissioners last week. In summary, the issue here is that we have a contract between El Paso County, the PPRTA, and Full Tilt Construction LLC for some curb gutter type work within an unincorporated El Paso County. That work was completed, notice of final payments published, and the PPRTA and county were ready to make payment when we received a number of filings, notices and filings related to UCC filings and other claims against the money that was owed to Full Tilt. Because we have a number of claims and we don't know who has priority, frankly, between UCC filings, subcontractor claims, and claims on the bond existing under that contract, the county's recommendation from their litigation department is to file a declaratory judgment in El Paso County, basically interpleading those funds, which is about $56,000, and asking the court for guidance on who and how those funds should be paid out so that we don't have any liability by making those decisions on our own. So today's action request is for authorization for the PPRTA to be a party to that declaratory judgment action. I have reviewed the complaint prepared by the county, and they are ready to file that upon my go ahead.
Thanks, Jennifer. Before we take any action on item 11, are there any board members that feel we need to go into an executive session to seek input from our legal counsel? Okay, I'm not seeing any. So given that, then any discussion around item 11, comments, concerns, thoughts?
Mr. Chair.
Randy, yeah.
Randy. Just a quick question. So I think it's clear there's no city of Colorado Springs involvement in this, as I understand it.
That's my understanding as well. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
That is correct. They're not a party to the contract.
Any other comments, discussion?
Mr. Chairman, this is Holly Williams.
Hi, Holly.
I would move approval to file in district court litigation related to the claims of these payments to Full Tilt.
For the purposes of a declaratory judgment, I assume?
Yes.
Very good. Is there a second?
Mayor
Mayor
Dixon,
Osborne, second.
We've got 2 seconds. I'm going to give that to Mayor Osborne because you've been hogging the mic there. Exactly. Very good. We have a motion and a second to approve the recommendation to file that declaratory judgment action. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye.
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 And any opposed? Okay, great. Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you. And I'll just note, by not having the executive session, I think I've set us up for that timely meeting end.
I think you have, and we're appreciative of that. Agenda topics for the next meeting. Are there any items that any board members or staff want to highlight for next meeting? Okay. Any PPRTA member announcements? Mayor Dixon.
Pleased to announce that we have our new town manager in place. His name is Caleb Patterson. In addition, we are exploring something right now where the town may have been basically maintaining private property. There's a road, an entire road, that I have yet to be able to determine if the town has any legal ability to go in and maintain it. We're still reviewing. How it affects RTA as one of our A-list items is on that road. And so in the future, should I not happen to be here, I mean, this is RTA 3 goes on for 10 years. You need to make sure if something comes from Green Mountain Falls or El Paso Trail, we need to make sure that we have legal authority to actually do it. So that's kind of the issue that we're trying to figure out right now is have, do we actually have any legal authority? We've been maintaining it for 50 years. Yeah. And so it's like, how'd that happen? The other thing is we are currently pursuing bridge funding. We have applied for, well, the total project of the bridge is the main bridge that comes into town. Total project estimate is 7.9 million. We are pursuing IIJA funds. Of course, those are on hold right now. And we have been receiving help from PPACG's grant coordinator, and the state is helping us actually write a lot of the grant narrative. We have already applied for state matching funds to the sum of 1.33 million. That is one of the A-list items. Should everything come together and the planets align, we would be wanting to use some of the RTA funds ahead of time, kind of like what we did for the basin. We'd be borrowing against future. So yeah, that depending on if we get funding for the bridge, we may be using some RTA funds ahead of time, basically borrowing against future funds for that. The bridge itself, we may have to close in and around 2040 because of its condition if we don't do something. And then the final thing is the postmaster came in, talked to us, and we have potentially unsafe condition on the town right away in front of the post office where we're getting the salad plate thing with the asphalt. Water's been collecting, and as people get out of their cars, we're getting a sheet of ice there. And that, I think that's going to fall under another potential one of our RTA A-list items under UPass Avenue, because it is on UPass Avenue. And so we may be looking to borrow future funds to try to take care of that slippery condition for people getting their mail. So more to come.
Lots going on up there that you're dealing with. So thanks for the update. Any other member updates? Mr. Helms.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a comment that Council Member Avila and Council Member Helms, we have 2 meetings left, March and April. So, and then you'll get 2 new council members to be on the PPRTA.
Well, although I've only been on this body for a short period of time, certainly on behalf of the body, thanks for your service, both you and Yolanda, and I'm sure the incoming council will have some good folks to choose from to appoint to this body.
We're not dead yet. So
nope, not going anywhere, at least for 2 months. Along those lines, I was going to just comment. I wanted to welcome El Paso County Commissioner Corey Applegate to the party. Congratulations on your election, and we certainly look forward to working with you here and in other ways around the county and the region. So welcome. Yep. Any other member announcements? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Also move. Quick on that button again.
And is there a second?
Second.
And I
Ready.
think we did beat the CAX time by like 2 minutes. Very good. We will stand adjourned. Thank you all.